and thank you for joining us again here with Danger Aware Animation. I am Ray Howell, the Chief Information Officer for Danger Aware, and over the last 4 or 5 years I've been learning animation using Moho, and I'm getting to the point where I'm getting kind of confident in my constructions, so I want to share those all with you guys as I'm learning to build. This is the any large red ant species of puppet for our Bugillager's characters, and I'm simply developing this character now. And in part 1 I got the character rigged and all the bones put in place for the skeleton, and I use the bones in 3 different ways, and I know they can be used in more ways than that, but Moho is quite versatile in allowing you to do things in many different ways. So I have learned there's ways of putting parts in front of and behind the body, and I've developed this particular version that I'm using now to feel and work the best for me. So I'm going to show you what I've been doing with that. So the skeleton is all rigged, which is all the bones that actually touch the body of the character. So if there is a body part that needs to move, that's where the skeleton bones are used. Okay, so all of the skeleton bones are now rigged. We're going to move from these working with the skeleton bones to working with the puppeteering bones. When I was a kid, I played with marionettes. I worked little puppets with strings and entertained younger children, and I learned a lot about how to manipulate the character with the stick. And in fact, I built my own giant spider puppet. Well, my sister built the puppet for me, but I created a special controller that allowed me to make the spider walk with the 4 legs at a time moving forward. It was awesome. And then one of my dogs chewed up the spider and destroyed it, and I really got upset. A puppeteer uses a handle to control their puppet, and because I learned all that as a kid, that's the way I think when I'm working with these puppets for animation. So if I was a puppeteer and I was building this puppet, I would have a long stick like this. This point down here would connect to this point on the body, and that would keep the body suspended where I wanted it by this back part of the stick. Then we have a cross stick that helps work the legs. Okay, so there would be strings coming off the corners of each of the sticks for working the knees and the feet of the puppet. Now, of course, with 4, I would need a double set of sticks here, but you're getting the idea, I'm thinking. So then we would need a set of sticks, or a stick, to work the arms, and it would have its own set of strings, and then another stick to work the mouth. And yes, there are mechanical puppets that have quite extensive functionality with the mouth and the eyes, and so we would have a crossbar for each of those as well. And as you can see, that's how I lay out my puppeteering bones for the character. I'm imagining that this stick would be above the puppet, but the strings would definitely go from these areas to those areas of the puppet so that I could manipulate the puppet to do what I want. So that's my explanation of how I'm laying this out and why. And then I use 4 star layouts for my bones, with them all connecting at the base to each other. And that allows me quite a bit of versatility, but I know exactly which bone is affecting which part of the body. And Just like the human body, most of our bones are in our hands and our feet. Now, I do a lot with the hands on the puppet, but I don't do a lot with the feet. The reason we have a lot of bones in our feet is for support. Puppets are supported by a string, or in this case, a bone that's positioned right here. And therefore, there needs to be no support in the feet. But we use our hands to manipulate things, and those bones need to be represented, and I do that here. And so here we've got the palm of the hand, then we've got the thumb, the tip of the thumb, then the base of each of the 3 fingers for this character. So there's a middle finger, a little finger, or a pinky finger, and a index or forefinger. And each of those have 2 joints. And that's how the hands are structured on this puppet. And these bones here, right above the hand, these are puppeteering bones. They don't touch the character. They're not part of the skeleton. And yes, they could be over here to the right with the rest of the hand controls, but because we want to manipulate the hands generally up close, I put these bones right here to make it easy to do hand manipulation. So with that said, let's get into this, and we're going to start with this bone here. What we have to do is create an action. An action in Moho is a small animation. That's the best way to think of it. And I get to complexity in my characters by trying to keep each individual section simple. So yeah, I've got a lot of control bones here, but each one is going to be a simple action on the character. So this one is going to be to move the legs around the body of the character. So we're going to click here and create a new action. Well, before we start, we're going to save as. So we're going to start making some major changes. So we're going to keep version 7 as it is, and now we're going to go to version 8. So we're going to make some major changes. That way, if I make mistakes, I can go back to 7. We create the action by coming up here under Actions and clicking the New Action button. But we need to be in the bone layer of the character, and we need to be in the construction. Well, we don't have to be in construction layer to do an action. You can build an action anywhere, and it will be there throughout. So you don't have to be in construction layer, but it's a good place to start. So we're going to click Create New Action. It takes on the name of the bone that we're going to make the action for, and that is why I've made sure I've named every bone before I start creating actions. So now, when the action's created, the first thing we're going to do is rotate the bone to its minimum possible position. And with my constraints at -3232, we need to move this bone all the way left to represent 1 on the timeline. And then we're going to jump to our maximum position, which if you add 32 to 32, you get 64. And then we add another 1 for the 0 position. So we're going to be at 65 for our maximum position. So we're going to rotate this bone to the maximum movement. So now as we move along the timeline, the bone moves with it. And as if we exit the action, when we move the bone, it will, in respect, play out that part of the animation. So we're going to make a small animation here. So at 65 and our maximum animated movement, we're going to want these legs to rotate around the bottom of the body, the thorax. What we want this leg to do is to move out to the edge and then come back around and be exactly where it's at right now. So we don't want to change this bone at all. But this bone is going to completely rotate as far in as it can back behind the body. So we're going to reduce the scale of this bone, which will move that leg to 5%. And so now that leg is moved way over. And then this leg is going to be behind. This leg is going to move as far over to the inside as it can. So we're going to make this one 5%. And then this leg is going to be right where it is, but it's going to be in front. So how do we get them in front? Well, we need to change the order that they are laid out here under the lower part of the body. So I've got the upper thorax here, then I've got the lower body, which consists of the legs, the lower thorax, and the back legs, and then the abdomen and the wings. So all of those are lower body features. Because I've engaged the enabled animated layer order, we can change the order of these parts during the animation. Now, we can do that within an action, or we can do that within our animation. We cannot do it in both. We can do it in both by using the action, but we cannot create an action that utilizes this feature and then try to utilize that feature without using the action. Okay? So the feature is exclusive to a single action. And because of that, I had to separate the upper body and the lower body so that I can do the arms around the upper body and do the legs around the lower body separately. I could do them all together in one action, or to separate them I had to create two different groups that have the ability to be sorted. Right now what we want is the front right leg to be where it is, but the front left leg, we want that to be behind the thorax. So we're going to just drop it down like that. And eventually the computer catches up. So now you can see we've got two legs in the back on the left side of the character. So we need to bring the back right leg to the front. So we're going to grab it here and drag it up above the lower thorax. And so now that leg will be in front. So now we've got the functionality where it looks as if the character is facing left with the lower part of the body. Now we're going to jump down to 1, and we want to be at just the opposite. So you can see everything went back to normal. So at the midpoint, we want to reset everything back to normal. But we'll wait to do that later. We'll do this side first. So at 1, we want the opposite of what we just did. We want this leg to be as far inward as possible. So we need to go back to the bone layer. And then we're going to grab that bone and change its scale to 5%. Then the same thing with the opposite back leg. We're going to reduce it to 5%. As it has moved over to the back side of the body as far as it can. So now the other two leg parts are going to be, the middle point here is going to be 33. So at 33 we're going to grab all those bones, D, and then holding shift I can select each of them, and then we're going to reset them. We're going to reset the scale on these, and so now as we go to 65 we get both legs on the one side, and as we go to 1 we should have the other two legs, but we don't. So let's go down here, and we want the back left leg to be in front now. And the front right leg to be in back. So now at 1, we are looking like we're walking left, and at 65, we're looking like we're walking to the right. And at 33, we're going to be headed straight towards the camera. We want to put the legs back to where they were to begin with. So the front legs need to be in the front of the thorax, and the back legs need to be in back. Now at 33, we're reset back to normal. There is going to be a transition point though, where the leg has to go around the body and then actually switch to the back. So we're going to go to 48, which would be halfway to turning left. We need to move this one leg that's in front all the way to the edge of the thorax. Hit B for bone on the keyboard, and then select just this one bone. Hit T, and because we don't know what the percentage is, we're going to do this one manually. And we have to be in the bone layer because we're affecting the bone within the action. So now we hit T to get the controller, and we're going to stretch this bone until the stroke on the leg is barely overlapping the stroke on the thorax, slightly more than just right over top of each other. So I can see the leg barely touching the line here. It's not hidden by the line. We want to see that touching there. Now at this point, this is when the leg will jump behind. The left front leg needs to be moved to behind the thorax at this point. And because it's already set there for the extreme of 65, it should stay behind between 48 and 65. And then at 65, we want this bone to be reset back to its original length. So we go back to the bone layer, select that bone, and reset it. So right now it's 190%. So that makes it easy for us to do the other side. We know it's going to be 190. Now we're going to reset. We're fully behind, and the legs rotate out and around and to the front. And now we need to do the back leg on the opposite side. So this bone should also be 190. We're close. So we're just going to grab this and shrink it down until, again, we're overlapping just barely. Want to see the leg come into the torso, except we're on the back side. So we're looking at the torso going into the leg here, right at this point. So there is our position. It's 174. Let's try 175 and see if that'll work. That works. So we're going to go with 190 and 175. The halfway point between 33 and 1 would be 16. Or 32 and 1, actually. But so at 16, we're going to do the opposite of what we just did. So this bone will be 175. And this bone will be at 190. And at this point, we shift the legs again. So we come down to the body here, and now we want the right back leg So the back right leg needs to come in front of the thorax, and then reset that bone. I scroll around, and it should still be in the front until here, but it's jumping behind. Okay, so we want the rear, the back right leg to be in front of the thorax. All right, so now it's staying in front. All right, and at 48 it flips around, and now it goes behind, and the one in the front comes around in front. So now at 33, oops, so 33, everything's as it should be. At 34, that front leg is jumping back, and it shouldn't, and so that's the front right leg, and that should be in the front still. And the back left leg should be in the back. Now, as we move along the timeline towards 16, at 16, it should still be with the back left leg in the back, and the front right leg in the front. All right, and at this point, this bone should be, let's go back to the bone layer. So this bone should be at 190. There we go. And then this bone should be at 175. All right. There we go. So then it'll continue around with those two legs in the back and the other two legs in the front. So there we go. We've got the body rotating so that we can walk in both directions, both left and right, without creating a whole nother set of character parts and all of that. Yeah, it takes a little bit to understand and set it up properly, but once you've done it a few times, it becomes more natural. It does give us the ability to rotate the character's hips basically around to walk either direction. All right, so now we're done with this action, and that's a pretty tough one. That one was more complex than most of my actions. Our next action is going to be, we're just going to work clockwise around to each bone. So this one is the abdomen up and down, or the back legs up and down. I want to be able to move the back legs up and then down, but not so much down as up. We can do that. We can have a lopsided control bone. And so I'm just going to do that right now. So first thing we do is rotate our bone all the way to the lowest position. It can be whichever direction we want. It doesn't matter. Then we go and move it to the max. Now, at maximum up, we want the back legs to move upwards. So we're going to come to the bone layer, hit B for bone, and grab these two bones, holding shift, hitting T, and now I'm just going to drag these upward and bring the legs with it. And I'm going to go till they're separated from the other legs completely. So you know, there's a gap between them. So right there should do it. So that is quite a bit up. That might be too much. Let's take a look at it. I'm going to leave it. I like that. So then at 33, we've got to reset it back to normal. So we come up here and reset the position. And then for 1, we're going to go down, but we're not going to go down too much because the torso of the thorax is pretty rounded here. And the more we come down, the more this is not going to work with the thorax without us altering things. So I'm holding shift and I'm going to drag it down, and we're going to go about the same distance below as it was above. And because the thorax is coming in like this, let's hide the front legs for the moment. We can see that our bone is now in the body structure of the character here. And that's going to throw off our rotating around the body because it's going to disconnect basically. If we rotated the body right here, it would disconnect. So what we need to do is look at it at 33. Oops. And see the distance between here and here. And we need to maintain that distance when we get down to the lower part. So let's go into our target real quick. And let's draw a square. We want to be in the... Oh, we need to go back out of the action. And then we're going to be in the construction layer. And now we can add a box. And we want to add a box that shows us where the distance is, that we can move this distance. Let's something like that. So from there we're going to copy that and paste it, and we're going to move it down. So when we're down here, we still have to cross here, and so this shows us where our bone will need to be at that point. So now we go back into our action and turn on the target so we can see those. Oh, let's go back to the target real quick and change the thickness on those. So go back to the main line and go into target, and we'll just grab these and under style we'll put them under target. There we go. So now we go back to our action. So we can see that this needs to be reduced, bringing the legs in as they come down to right there. So that means this will maintain our rotation all around the body. But we need to do this going up as well. So, because otherwise when we move upward, that gap gets bigger. So now we can see how big this gap is. We need to have it back to where it's as close to this as possible. So first we'll just reset. But that's still not enough to get us over. So we got to go back out to the main line. And we're going to add a third target. So we're not going to go to the maximum movement of the bones. We're going to go to the maximum thickness of the hips. So we're going to copy this and paste it. And then move it up until we're centered on that widest point right there. And you see we get a little line there that helps us get right in the center of that flat spot. So now we know that's where our maximum spot's going to be. And then where is our final destination? It's going to be quite a bit higher, so we need another one. And we're going to move that and put this up here. And let's rotate this to match the slope of the body there. And that way no matter where the bone ends up along here, we're going to be able to get the position right because these are parallel. So now we go back into our action. And as we move up, so right here, you can see I need to move these bones out a bit. And we're at 41, we should be at 42. So we're going to stretch these bones out. Right there. Oops. Precision is your friend. So even though it might take a little extra time, be as exacting as you can. And then at the maximum position, oh, we're way up above my bone, aren't we? Let's bring that maximum position down. That's too high. So I'm going to hold shift. I'm going to drag it down to the top of the little marker there, which is our arrow as well. So that's a good spot. That's quite a bit up anyway. So now we're going to reduce these until it hits the edge of that box. Missed it by one. Right there. So now we've got the legs going up and down and following the curvature of the thorax. So let's take a look at that. So there we go. So let's turn off the target. Let's exit the action. So here we are. We've got the ability to move the legs around the body. Oh, it needs to turn them on too. Let's see that happening. Alright, so let's go into the animation layer. And we're going to animate the character's legs going around the body in both directions. So you can see that that's a smooth transition because of the overlapping of the strokes. And we're good to go. Now, if we move those back legs up, do they still rotate at the body? Yes, they do. And as we move them down, they stay with the body. And at this point, they should still go around the body at the proper moment. The point is the top of the leg there is a circle that will rotate and stay on that line that it's at now. So that works. Right there is good. And that completes that action. And we're going to go to the next bone. And create the action for legs left and right. I did legs left and right, didn't we? Abdomen left and right. Oh! I did legs on abdomen. How did I do that? Well, so what we do is we just grab all of this and copy it and create the legs action. I should have done to begin with. I don't know how I did that. Taking sinus medicine with my other medication probably. So we'll go back to the main line and we create this action. And we paste. Now, we don't want the bone movement pasted. So we're going to grab B for bone and select the bone that we messed with. And we're just going to remove the red line. So we're removing just the actions of that bone. And then we're going to replace it by moving the actual bone we want to work the legs. So we're going to go all the way to the left, and then go to 65, and go all the way to the right. Let's see how that works. Yeah, that's right. But we didn't get the action of the layer switching. So we're going to go to lower body and go into abdomen, and we're going to copy this or cut it. Let's just cut it. So we're going to go Control X, and we're going to go into the other action and Control V. Then we move up to the bone layer, and we can manipulate the bones. So, even though I built it on the wrong control, it was pretty simple to put it on the right one. Now let's go back and do this bone here that I should have done before with the abdomen left and right. It has retained the bone movement. Let's go ahead and delete all of this. So we're going to go to 1. We're going to rotate the bone to the minimal position, or in this case, far right for the character, far left for us. Then we're going to move it to 65 for the other extreme. And now we're going to go down and move the segmented abdomen. And as you can see, there's 10 sections here. In the past, I have added bones, pin bones, for each of these sections. But I don't think we need that at all, because we can move these segments based on this bone without there being a bone on these parts. So I've set all these parts parented to the same central core bone, the little round one in the middle there. So all of them are on this bone. So we're going to start with segment 10, which is the closest to the back of the body. And that one's going to move first. So we're going to hit the layer. And the reason we want to choose the layer and not the object is because when we move the object, let me just do it here as an example. So say we move the object over like this. If you go back and look at the layer is now stretched. And that makes a difference on rotation and other things as well. So like if I wanted to rotate this, it's going to rotate from the original center, not where it's at now. Alright? So if we move it by layer instead, then when we move it, the entire structure moves and it doesn't change its shape or size. And it rotates on its center. Now with a circle that doesn't matter, but with other parts it does. That's why I wanted to explain it. So, the first part doesn't move that much from the back of the body. Again, we're going to go to complexity, through simplicity, and through small steps. So I'm just going to grab shift, and I'm going to drag this over until this point is intersecting with this leg here. That way we can duplicate this in the other direction. Alright? So now, we're going to grab the next one, and we're going to drag it over, and it's going to go a little further than that one did. Now we want to duplicate that the other way, but because we didn't use numbers and just eyeballed it, let's see here. I'm going to move this over a little more. Once we've got exactly what we want it to look like, hit Control R, and we're going to render our character here. And then we're going to save this image as a PNG. And we're just going to save it where we're working here. and close it. And then we're going to import it right above the target. So let's go to the main line. Now we can import our image. You don't want to do it within the action because then it moves around on you depending on what you've done within the action. So we're going to bring in this image. We're going to go in and change its opacity to about 50%. And we're going to flip the image and line up the face. Now we can duplicate the structure of the abdomen going the other direction. So go back to the bone layer and back to the abdomen left and right action. So now at 1 we're all the way left, so we need to move all of those segments into position. So 10 be right on its shadow, just like that. And 9, and 8, go to the bone layer, go into the animation frame, and we can now move the abdomen left and right. And it's the same both directions. So now we can have the character moving that direction. And we can easily flip these legs forward so that it looks like he's moving that direction in a hurry. So we go back to the bone construction layer, the bone layer, the main line, select the bone, and choose new action. So this is going to be abdomen up and down. So it's going to be just like what we did for left and right, but up and down. So manipulate the bone down to its minimal position. Jump to 65. Move it to its maximum position. Or in this case, up and down positions. With up, we're just going to go down to the and now we're going to test up and down. We didn't reset in the center, you can tell. So we're going to go back into the abdomen up and down. And we've got to go to 33. And now we need to reset all of those abdomen's positions because you can see they're not lining up properly now. So we're going to just go in and on the layer, reset the position. So this is for our Bugillager cartoons. We want to be able to create new unique characters on the fly. And so somebody comes up with a new story, they can write out the script, we can then produce the video much quicker than if we had to create a new character from scratch every time. So let's go ahead and turn the upper body back on now. We're going to go back into the main bone layer, and now everything should be correct. So go back to the main line, and we're in the animation. And so now we can test the legs rotation, back legs up and down, abdomen up and down, and abdomen left and right. So there we go. That part is finished. We're ready to move on. The next bone would be in the construction layer. We don't have to be, but it's best if we start there. And we're going to create the action for the thorax up and down, so that we can make the character look like he's bending down and over towards us to work as a six-legged creature. First thing we're going to do is rotate our control bone up and down. So down for position 1. We're going to go to 65 and move it up for 65. This is going to be easy. So with it up, that means the character will be stretching upward. So we're going to grab these two bones, this one and this one, hit T. We're going to stretch this upward, making the character a bit taller. Let's go 125. Then we're going to drop down to 1, and we want it to drop down to 25. And that's a bit much. So let's try 50. Yeah, so 50 works. So then at 33, we need to reset the bones back to their normally, because we're not doing the same amount of change going down as we are going up. The midpoint's 87.5%. We need it to be at 100 to release the bones for other actions. Otherwise, we'll have a conflict. Now our character can drop down low or stretch up high. Going into the body part, which is lower thorax, and we're going to drop that 1 point back down to where it was, like that. And the character gets, oh well, it was quite a bit lower, it looks like. Let's go to 33 and reset it. Okay, so that's where it belongs, is way up there. So when the character drops down, it should come down a little bit, but not that much. It's good about right there. So let's see how that looks. Alright, and then as it goes taller, we also don't want it to stretch that much. So there we go. So it looks now more like the top of the body is moving, but the bottom is not. And we are getting a change on those legs. So, but I think they're working with the amount of change to the body. It should still rotate properly even down there. So let's give it a try. Go to the main line and go to the animation. We are there. Going to the bone layer. And so the character stoops down and rotates the legs around. So looks good to me. I think I'll stretch it just a bit more. Alright, so we're starting here, As we drop the character down, we can see how much that point is moving and decide if we want to go ahead and bring it back down. And then at our 65, it should still be in about the same place, but maybe a little bit down. So there we go. And looks like the halfway point at 16, we need to bring it back up as well. That way it's not going down and then back up. The character can stoop down and get up. So the next one is going to be the arms around the torso. Create the action for that. Or thorax left and right. So we rotate the control bone all the way to the left for position 1. Go to 65 and then rotate all the way to the right. Now, just like the legs, but with only one set, once we've rotated all the way to the right, the bones are going to be right where they are now. When we rotate to the right arm is going to drop down to 5%. And what did we do? Oh, we've got the shoulder attached to the bone there. And we don't want to do that. Let's go back to the main line and see how we can change that. So we've got the upper thorax, and we've got beaver bone, and these three are attached to that bone. We don't want that. We're going to have to attach them to this bone. Yeah, so I grab these three and bind. So now we go back to our thorax left and right, and now it's 65. Now the arm comes around, but not the shoulder. We are going to alter that to make it look like the body's turning. So let's go ahead and let's see, I think 5% is maybe a bit much. Let's take it down to, let's only go to 25. So, yeah, that's better. So at 1, this bone's going to be reset to 100, which it is already. And this bone's going to be 25. All right, and then at 16, we want, let's see here. First, let's go to 33 and reset. That way we're working towards the reset position. So we reset, belly for bone, and reset. So now that is our normal position. This is going to be rotating to the left, and this is going to be rotating to the right. So now at 16, this bone will have stretched out to rotate around the shoulder, and I'm going to be just inside, just like that. And at 48, we're going to have just the opposite. This one's going to be out to the shoulder. All right, and then at this point, we're going to move, because we've got this set up just like with the lower part, where the body, the upper body, we can switch parts around here, but only at the layer underneath that layer. So all we can move at this point under the upper body is the right arm, left arm, head, and upper thorax. These are the only things we can affect. So right now we want the left arm to jump down and go below the thorax. And that will put it behind it for the rest of the way through to 65. And at 65, we need this bone to reset. So we're going to go back to bone layer, hit B for bone, select this one, and reset the scale. So it looked like it was 155 at 48. So when we get to 16, the other bone will be at 155. We'll go and check that. It says 154. We'll go 155, just so they're the same on both directions. And now we can move this arm below the thorax. So the right arm needs to go below the thorax. And we need to go to 1 and make sure it's set for that as well. So at 1, we bring the right arm below the thorax. Now we've got one arm in front, one arm in back. At 16, the one arm comes around to the front. So it didn't, so at 16 or at 17, we need to bring the right arm back to be above the left arm. And then that'll stay like that all the way through to 65. And the other arm rotates around the body at 48. So there we go. The arms are rotating around the body. So that part's done. So now we've got the wing bones. So we'll start over here with the left one. And these don't have the same constraints as the other bones. In fact, I don't have any constraints on these. And I don't think we will put any constraints on them. But what we want to do is make it where they react to this bone. So yeah, we are going to need bones for the wings. I thought that we could eliminate them. We probably could, but I think it would be easier and better to have bones there. So we're going to go B for bone and grab this bone and A to add, and we're going to add a front wing bone. We'll go to there. Then again, B for bone, A to add another one, and then B for bone, A to add, and it'll be just a little bit further out, and then B for bone, A to add, and wing. So we've got front and back wings. We're going to go to the bone layer, hit B for bone, select these bones, and then remove their strength. We don't want any strength on them. Then we're going to grab each wing, So left front wing, and we're going to bind the wing, complete wing, to this bone. So left front wing to that one, right front wing to this one, left back wing to this one, and right back wing to this one. We're going to go to this bone. Well, before we do that, we're going to we don't need to make an action for this. I just realized. This is not going to be an action. This is just going to be a relationship. What we need to do is go into the constraints of these bones, and we're going to shape their angle and control it based on the wing control bone. So before that, let's name the bones. They just have numbers right now. So this is back left wing, front left wing, front right wing, and back right wing. All right, and now let's see something here. Okay, yeah, they are all together. All right, so now the constraints are going to be that the angle of movement for these bones is going to be restricted by the wing movement bone, which is right here. So here's the right wing control and left wing control. So we're right now on the right back wing. So the right wing control is going to affect that wing at 110%. And the same with this bone. We're going to go 110%. And then these bones will move at 100% based on, oh, I did to the wrong wing control. So this one is the right wing control at 100%. And this one is left wing control at 100%. Then these two are, this should be left wing control at 110%, and this one should be right wing control at 110. So now with those constraints set like that, when I move this bone, the wings come out and separate as they go up and out, and that's what we want. So now the next bone, I could start here, but I can't really do this bone until all of these bones are set. So I'm going to start with this one. So we're going to create a new action. I'm going to be in the bone construction layer, the bone layer, main line, create a new action. And this is going to be frown and smile for the face. Now originally I would make these characters with smiling faces, but that makes it hard to make a frown after the fact. So it's best to create your character parts and pieces at their neutral position or their halfway point at prime, but that's not going to happen every time, as we've seen with the stooping and the abdomen. So first thing we do is rotate all the way to the left to get the lowest position, and then we rotate all the way to the right at 65. Then we go down into the head and into the mouth, and here we have the lips. So on the lips, The points on the edges are already selected, and so at 65 we're going to have this character smiling very large. So we're going to bring the smile up to the maximum smile. Alright, now you can see that messes with the middle of the lips there, so we're going to grab that center point and we're going to bring it up a bit so that we're into seeing the gums. Right now the gums have no border, but they are there. And then we're going to increase the curve. Actually, the curve is there, but pointed upward, we're going to bring it downward. So we're creating a more rounded top lip to the smile. And we're going to bring the bottom one down just a bit as well, because we want to see the bottom teeth with our maximum smile. Alright, then we're going to hit 33. And we're going to grab all those points and reset them. Then we're going to go down to 1. And at 1, we want the character to be frowning. So we're going to grab these corner points, hit T, and just drag those downward to the maximum frown, which would be, we could exit the body with it, it's a cartoon. So we'll do that, and then we'll bring the top lips down and the bottom lips down so that we can get an extreme frown. And then we check this out. We'll go through the timeline and see how that works out. So yeah, we've got a very frowny character, lips, and a smiley character. Alright, so there's that we're done. We'll move on to the next bone. I'm just going to work our way clockwise. So this is going to be jaw open, or jaw up and down. So first thing we do is rotate our bone. Got a lot of time waiting on this computer. We could really use some new computers. Alright, so we're going to rotate this down. Go to 65 and rotate it up. So when the jaw is up, the teeth are going to come together. So we're going to start with the bottom teeth, and we're just going to grab all of it with T, and it looks like it was already all the way up, and it is. So something that shouldn't be that way. Well, there it is. It's down. Why was it up? Oh, because it's already been programmed. Apparently, I programmed this in the past and didn't realize it. So yeah, at 65, we want our teeth all the way up, touching. At 33, we're going to reset so that they're back to their original position. And then when they're fully open, they're down here. Now, if the teeth are coming down, the face needs to come down as well. So we're going to grab the jaw parts of the face here. So we're going to grab from here to there, hit T, and we're going to bring this down. So right now, when we're jawed down, all the way down here, we want the face to be down there as well. So about right there. Let's look at the bottom teeth. We can go down a little bit more. And take a look. And then, as the teeth close, hit 65. We want the jaw to come up just the same amount as the teeth do. So let's check that out. I'm looking at the red line, and yeah, it's coming down with the teeth, but not quite the same speed. Let's bring it up a little bit more. So yeah, that should do it. Again, each one should just do something simple. They should not be complex. And as long as you remember to reset at 33, or the midpoint, the exact midpoint is what matters. You reset at the midpoint, then you've got it right. I didn't think I double-clicked that, but apparently I did. Oops, dropped my mouse. Apparently I've upset Moho. There we go. Moho recovers well though, and it saves your work for you. So if it crashes, it reopens exactly where you were. Good software. Alright. I don't want this. And we want to go back to the main line. See, what I'm doing is I'm working on a laptop, and what we need is a desktop with a $1,200 display card so that all this happens much quicker. So back to the main line, and now we go to the next bone, and this is the lips width. So how wide the lips can get. First thing we do is rotate the bone all the way to the left for the minimum position, or the widest of the lips, and to 65 for the maximum position, or the narrowest. Well, let's go widest to the right. So with the right, they'll be wide. To the left, they'll be narrow. So again, we go down into the mouth and to the lips. And remember, we've done things with the lips before, but because we reset at the middle of that bone action, we can do things here as well. So we're going to grab, get these 2 points, and hit T. And then at 66, we want it to be wide, so we're going to hold Alt and just stretch it wide. That makes both of them move together. So let's go all the way to right there. And then for narrow, just going to close it in. Now we're not changing the entire mouth. Oops, I didn't hold Alt. I was holding Shift. Let's hold Alt and bring it in. And we want to bring it in till we've got just like an O mouth. Like they're going, oh. And so there is our narrowest mouth width. And at 33, of course, we have to reset, or it will affect other actions. So reset. So now we can go out to the main line. And the next bone is going to be how big the mouth opens. So go here to mouth, lips up and down. Let's change that before we create it. Let's go lips, open, close. So that's better. So now at the action, lips open, close. After Moho creates the action, and remember, every action is a complete micro animation. It can be as long as you want, but an action is a micro animation that you want to repeat often. And that's why we're doing these actions like this. So we're going to rotate the bone down for position 1. And up for 65. And I would say for up, we would want our mouth opened as far as it will open. So let's go to the lips. And now we're going to grab the center point lips and hit T and use Alt. Let's zoom in so we can see the parts we're working on. And then we're going to hold Alt while we drag the mouth open. And again, we want to basically make it like a O, but ah, like they're screaming. Ah! So there's our maximum mouth opening. We're going to jump down to 1 and using Alt and zooming in, we're just going to shrink it down till the lips completely touch. And right there. So there's no white showing in the gap here. And this is an outside tongue that you're looking at, if you were wondering what that thing is. That's the tongue, but it's on the outside of the body, or the outside of the lips. So we'll get to that in a bit. So there we go, and we go to 33, and we need to reset so that those do not affect any other action. So now we can open really wide and close. Alright, so we'll go back to the main line. Go back to the bone layer. And now these all affect the tongue. So the tongue is inside the mouth and it needs to move around. And these are to make the tongue pop out of the mouth and get longer. So we're ready to move on to the next bone, which is this one. So tongue width. So create a new action. And now we've got 3 tongues here. Now there's many ways to do the 3 tongues that I've done, and I've tried a number of different ways, like using reference layers and such as that. Reference layers are great, you know, but if you make a change to the main tongue or part, you're making a change to the whole thing. So it causes the references to change to match, even though you may have wanted them to be different and stay different. The moment you go to the root part and change it, the reference levels change as well. So looks like I've already got tongue width programmed from a prior, this character came from a prior character. And I can see the tongue is minimal there. And as I move across, yeah, it's getting to the max. So I've already done the tongue, and it looks like I've done the tongue in and out of the body as well. Let's take a look. Yeah, they're changing shape and size as well. So I've already done the tongue. Looks like I've already done tongue up and down, left and right, the height, the width, in and out of the mouth, and the length. So let's make sure this is working here. So tongue in and out, there's a tongue up half, a tongue down half that comes out of the mouth so that we can lick lips and stuff is like that. So let's just test everything. So when we move the tongue, that just makes it wider. We need to out of there. All right. So the tongue should be. Oh, I know why it's not working. Even though the programming's there, I haven't programmed in these controls. So the programming came in because I copied the mouth from another character where I'd already done all of these actions. Okay, but those are related to those other bones. So I simply need to go in and make the bone active on each of these actions. So for tongue width, I need to simply go in and move the bone to the minimum position. Then jump to 65, move it to the maximum position. Then I can go to the main line, go to the next bones action, alright, so we're going to rotate down for the minimum position, or the tongue down, and then 65 would be for the tongue up. So you can see the action is there. We just needed this bone to be brought into play as well. So there the tongue is moving up and down. So we're going to go back out. Go to the next bone. Create an action, and it's going to pick up that same action with the same name from the pasted information. But the bone did not carry through because it's not the same bone. So we rotate it all the way to the left, and you can see the tongue is over to the left, and we jump to 65 and rotate all the way to the right, and the tongue is there. So we exit back to the main line, and we create the next bone action, and it's going to pick up tongue height from the copy pasted. Do is rotate the bone. Alright, so we need to go down for the minimum position, or the short tongue, and move it to the max for the tall tongue. So now that's just affecting the tongue as itself, not changing it, just making it, well, it's changing it taller and shorter, but it's not changing any individual part of the tongue. It's changing the whole tongue together as one. Alright, so the next bone would be this one, which is the tongue in and out of the mouth. Now this one has constraints of only 3 positions. So when I go into constraints, I don't need minus 70 to 70. That's way too much. So I'm just going to go to minus 3 to 3, because we only want a small range of movement, and we're only going to have 3 positions for that movement. So when we create the action and go to tongue in and out, again, it's importing what was copy pasted for the mouth, so the action will already be there. And when we go to the tongue, you can see here we've got tongue out is off and tongue out down is on, but actually they should both be off at this point. Well, no, we're at 1, so yeah, tongue on down. We need to rotate the bone. So we're going to rotate the bone far left as it'll go, which is only 3 degrees. There we go. Then we're going to go to position 3 on our timeline and rotate it all the way to the right. So now, even though we can put this in 7 different degrees of positioning, there's only 3 positions. In the center, the tongue outs are both invisible. At position 3, the tongue out up is on, and at position 1, the tongue out down is on. And we're going to do the next bone. Now we go to this bone, create an action. It's going to import the action I've already created. Oh, now we're at tongue length. We need to rotate the bone down for the minimum position. Oh, and I don't have constraints. So we need to put constraints on this bone. We'll go with the standard minus 32. 32. Alright, so now it's at its lowest position. Down. Then it's 65. Move it all the way up. So what I did with this bone was I stretched the tongue upward and downward depending on where it was at. And of course downward is more than upward again. So it's not an evenly balanced alteration. So now we go into the animation, frame 1, and we want to have the character stick their tongue out. So we stick the tongue out on the bottom, and then we want the tongue to get long and stick it out and go blah 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 blah. So there we go. And then if it's sticking out on the top, it stretches upward so we can easily lick the lips as much as we want, going up or down. So now with all of that and careful control and planning, a person has control of the tongue, both inside and outside of the mouth. So there we go. Next is the eyes. And there should be another set of bones. We shouldn't do just one set of bones for the eyes. If you do, you'll never be able to wink at anybody. So if we want to be able to wink, we need a separate set of controls for the eye as a separate group. So we're going to copy this group and paste it and then drag it over. So this one will be for the character's right eye, and these will be for the character's left eye. So all we need to do is rename these bones. So this is the right eyelid, up and down. This is the right pupil, left and right. This is the right pupil, up and down. And this is the right pupil size. Alright, so with that, now I can start programming each of these. We're going to start over here with the right pupil size. We're going to create a new action. We're going to rotate the bone all the way to the left for the minimal position, or the minimum pupil size, and go to 65 for the maximum pupil size. So what we want to do is go into the right eye. So here's the right eyebrow, right. Here's the right eye, and we're going to go to the pupil, and it's already selected. So what we want to do is hit T, and at 65 we want it to be 150% of what it was. So 50% larger. Then at the minimal position, we want it to be 50% smaller. So we're just going to go 50%. So there is our pupil getting bigger and smaller, and at 33 we want to grab it and reset it to make sure we release it for all our other actions. And now we're going to do the next bone. That one's finished. So we got the right pupil up and down. Create an action for that. Oh, not pupil, eyelid up and down. So this is the eye opening and closing. Now this character's got tilted eyes, but that won't matter. We're just going to still work towards the center as if they were normal. First thing is to rotate the bone all the way down, and that will be closed eyes, and 65 will be eyes fully open. Now, as I've mentioned before, this character's eyes are half closed, so we're going to go into the upper lid here, and we're just going to open it up like this. We've got to grab the eye white and open it up like this. And then the lower lid, or the lower eye white, open like this. So we're getting an eye that's almost square. So now we're going to change all the other parts. So upper lid, it's in good position. Lower lid, we're going to bring that down to here, just like that. Then we need to move the eyelashes. So we're going to pick that up, and, well, we don't want to do it that way. Let's see. Can we stretch? No, if we stretch it that way, it doesn't work. Well, it looks like we're going to have to do a lot of hand work on this, so we're just going to bring it down at the center. Let's undo everything I've done. Alright, so we're just going to bring it down till it's touching where it belongs, and then bring these parts up. And remember, this is all just another animation. We're just creating an animation that we're going to reuse a lot of times. Alright, and then we'll shorten these because they shouldn't be getting longer just because they're moving. So there we got the bottom eyelashes, and then we can do the same thing with the upper. Just going to move them till they're in the right basic position. And let's see, we can grab these like this and rotate them and then move them over. That works. Let's try the same thing up here. Rotate them a bit and then move them where they should be. So there we go. That's the maximum open eye. Alright, then we're going to go to 33. And we're going to choose each one of those and just reset. So grab all of it and reset. Bottom eyelashes, grab all of it and reset. And then the lower lid, just select all of it and reset. The upper lid, and then the eye white, which is the shape of the eyes itself, and we'll reset that. Alright, so our opening of our eye is complete. So there's the halfway point, and there's the fully, oh my goodness, I'm so excited point. Alright, so now we're going to go down to closing the eye. So I'm going to go position 1, and we just start with the eye white here. We're going to bring this down to, let's go a little past so we get like a rounding effect on the eye. And then we're going to bring this one up, and then we're going to hit the corners and bring the curves down. Just reduce them to nothing. And actually, when we're at 65, let's make those curves a little farther open. So there we go. And we'll make them a little more rounded that way. There we go. So now, when we reset at the center, we need to reset the curvature as well. So both, well, let's just hit the whole thing and reset the curve. There we go. So now our eye opens really big and closes. Alright, so when they're closed, I think I want a little more roundature to make it, to make it so that it looks like it's a rounded eye, you know, not just flat. So there we go. Alright, so there's our open and close, and now we need to bring the eyelashes down. Oh, wait a minute. Yeah, we'll just leave it. I'm going to close the eyelid. Whoops. Lower lid. And then the lower lash. So it moves on up, and I'm going to turn it temporarily and flatten the curvature and then rotate it back. Yeah, that works. So do the same thing with the upper lash. We're going to rotate it to be flat and go beyond flat and down to where it's rounded downward. So there we go. right there. So now the character opens his eye and closes his eye. I'm thinking I might not want to change the sclera or the eye white. Let's remove what I did to that. Let's see what it looks like. Oops. So with it that way, the eye opens. Well, at 65, we definitely need the sclera opened all the way. Let's see what that looks like. And at this point, it would be closed. Nope, leave it alone. In fact, let's make it the same as maximum. Yeah, because this is the eye socket, and that will be close to skin color at this point, and it'll just be showing where the eye socket is. Alright, so we've got our eye closing and opening with the eyelashes doing the proper thing. And it's an insect eye, so it's going to be weird because I'm making them humanized. Okay, so what we want to do now is do the same thing for the other eye, but I think what I want to do is just get rid of the other eye and then duplicate this eye and call it the left. We're going to go to the left eye and flip it out here in the construction layer where it belongs. Move it over. And that crosshair is so that we can get it as close to perfect as possible. And let's make sure the right one is also in the same type of position here. Yeah. So there we go. Now we've got our left eye and right eye, and we can continue. And we rotate the bone, jump to 65, and rotate all the way to the right. Alright, so now we're going to go down to the eye, the right eye, and grab the pupil. And we're going to move it all the way to the character's left, our right. So I'm going to click and hold shift and drag, and we're going to bring it right till the center point on the top intersects the center of the stroke of the eye here. So that's as far to the inside the eye will go. Then we're going to go to the left, and we'll do the same thing. We're just going to drag it over till that top point is in the middle of the stroke. So there is our range, and then at 33 we of course want to reset back to normal. But I did all that wrong, so we're going to start over. So now we're in the middle, we want to be at 65, and then we're going to use the layer to move it over. I moved it by the object. So we're going to move this to here. Same thing, just the intersection of the red point with the edge of the eye stroke, and on the left direction, same thing, right on the edge of the stroke. Then at 33, we reset the positioning. So, voila. Now we go back out. Go to the main line, the regular area, and move the pupil left and right. And it's not going. Did I forget the bone? Doesn't look like it. Well, there it is. Now let's go back out. Oh, we need to be in the animation frame because we're working with the layers. There we go. So the eye goes left and right. And now we move our eye all the way left and all the way right. And then we're going to do the next one, which is up and down. So we need to move this down. And it's 65. Move it all the way up. So we're going to go in and take the eye again, so pupil, and we're going to go by layer, and at 65 it's going to be all the way up, and again we're going to hit the edge with the red dot from the center of the pupil. We're going to put that in the center of the stroke, go down to 1, and drop it down the same way. Just going to hit until it's in the center of the stroke. And 33, of course, we reset. So now that was up and down, left, right, pupil, and all. So let's go into the pupil size, and we're going to remove changing the left pupil. Control X, and then we're going to go to the left pupil size, which we don't have yet, so we're going to create it. And we rotate the bone all the way to the left, go to 65, rotate it to the right, and go back to 1 and paste what we had cut, and let's make sure that that works. And no, it doesn't. Oh, we didn't select the pupil. Now we paste. And there we go. Pupil is getting larger and smaller and resetting at 33. Alright, so back to the main line. And we've got eyelids up and down. Rotate it all the way down for eyes closed. And 65 for eyes all the way open. Alright, so let's go to right eyelids up and down. And we're going to grab the upper lid. Of the other eye. Hit T. So we've got all of it, and then we're going to copy that red line. And we go into the upper lid of the other one. Oops, I didn't want to open that. And left upper lid. Select it and paste. So there, it's closed and open. So we can do that for each part. We just have to go back and forth between the right upper lid, or right lid open and close, and the right characters part. Then we can copy this line. Then we go to the other action and the other lid. And paste. So now the eyes are finished, but I'm going to do one more thing, and that is most of the time we want the eyes working together. If the left one moves left, unless you're a chameleon, but in this case we want it to do that. So what we're going to do is lock these bones to these bones by doing the bone constraint, and we can just say when the angle happens, the left eye lid up and down is going to do what the right eyelid up and down does. There it is, left eyelid up and down. So the right is going to work off the left. Left pupil, left and right. Left pupil up and down. And finally, pupil size. Okay, so unless we want to make the character wink, these bones are bound together. So when I move the one, the other moves. We've got to be in the animation layer. So eyes left, eyes right, eyes up and down, opening and closing, getting excited or not, fearful. There we go. So there, we're finished with everything on the puppet manipulation except for the head turn and the head tilt. So the head tilt, the head will come up and down. The head turn, it'll go to the right and to the left. Have a great day. Thank you for watching. I appreciate it. Please hit the like and subscribe. We need the coverage. Please visit Danger Aware, and if you can afford to donate $1, we would appreciate it. We also have Patreon, Twitter, which is now X, Blue Sky, Rumble, Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. So you have a great day. Thanks again for joining me on our journey to learn how to animate, and I'll see you next time.
a stranger, could be the one that lives next door. Danger, danger, could be a stranger, could be the one that you adore. Watch for the things that cause alarm. Watch for the one that would do you harm. Danger, danger, could be a stranger, could be the one that lives next door. Danger, danger, could be a stranger, could be the one that you adore. Please be alert and be aware of all the dangers anywhere. Danger, danger, could be a stranger, could be the one that lives next door. Danger, danger, could be a stranger, could be the one that you adore. Stand your ground and speak out loud. Let the world know harm's all around. Danger, danger, could be a stranger, could be the one that lives next door. Danger, danger, could be a stranger, could be the one that you adore. Danger, danger. Danger, danger. Danger, danger, could be a stranger,